It's 9 p.m. in RTD. It's time to English New Edition, and for tonight headlines we have the opening of the 32nd round summit of the African Union in Addis Ababa. For the international scene, Senator Elizabeth Warren as a candidate in the 220 U.S. presidential elections. Welcome to our newsroom. The 32nd round summit of the African Unions of the Head of State opened this morning in the Ethiopian capitals of Addis Ababa and placed the refugee, returned and internally displaced peoples at the head of the debate. The President of the Republic, Ismail Margele, and these African peers spoke about the issue of migrants and internal migrants. Migration on the continent is caused by political instability, civil insecurity and poverty. Between 2008 and 2015, an average of 25 million people were displaced each year as a result of climate disasters, according to data from the Observatory for Displaced Peoples. In 2016, about 1.1 million people were displaced by sudden natural disasters. The 2019 theme is timely given that the African Union has developed comprehensive and robust normative framework governing forced displacement. It should be noted that this year marks the 15th anniversary of 1969's conventions governing the specific aspects of refugee problems in Africa, and the 10th anniversaries of the African Union's conventions on the protection and assistance of persons displaced in Africa. Kampala Conventions of 2009, the leaders of the continent 2 days will reflect on the reforms of the organization. They will return to the elections held in 2018's commitment, but also the regional integrations, the situations in terms of peace and security, the humanitarian situations are all issues that African leaders will be looking at. In addition, there was discussions of issues related to the implementations of the institutional reforms of the African Union, the African Continental Free Trade Area, and the implementations of the decision of the African Union Conference on post-Cotonou negotiations. This free trade zone, named Guineans, is an instrument to stimulate development, increasing values added to the processing of raw materials, as well as the development of growth in order to improve the competitive positions of Africa in the world and the world economy. The Minister of Defense in charge of relations with the Parliament, Mr. Ali Hassan Bahdoun, has received this morning, February 10th, the visit of a delegation of Somaliland composed of the Ministers of Defense, Mr. Isa Ahmed, and the Minister of Planning, Mr. Awale Ibrahim Shirwa, and the head of the diplomatic representative of Somaliland in Djibouti, Abdi Fattah Saeed Ahmed. The meeting was held in the presence of the Djiboutian leaders of the cabinet of the Minister Commander Ilyas Abdullahi Gele and the technical advisors to the Minister Iltre Ibrahim Faraha. The Minister Ali Hassan Bahdoun and his distinguished guests discussed the state of Djibouti-Somaliland bilateral relations, the ways and means to consolidate them further. Well, also discussed during this meeting the level of cooperation and exchange between the Republic of Djibouti and Somaliland was discussed. Mr. Ali Hassan Bahdoun pointed out that Djibouti and Somaliland have a special relations. They do not share only a common borders, they are also bound by the culture, language and family ties that exist between their two populations. In addition to a large volumes of economic and commercial exchange, the two parties also collaborate in in a number of strategic areas, such as the fight against cross-border crime, the fight against terrorism. The Minister of Health, Dr. Jama Al-Maukiya, has received in his office the medical teams of the Patronage Cardiac Surgery Associations led by its representative, Ms. Fatma Shawi. The meeting was attended by the Acting Secretary General of the Ministry of Health, Ms. Nima Musa Ali, the Director General of the Peltier General Hospital, the Minister's Technical Advisor, and the Central Director of the Ministry. The purpose of this meeting was, before all, a courtesy visit and the first contact with the Minister of Health, but also to discuss the activities of consultations for the selection and the screening of Djiboutian children from 10 to 50 years of age with cardiac malformations. This screening and selections activity will take place from 10 to 50 February at the Peltier General Hospital in the Cardiology Department. The delegation led by the Minister of Labour, Hassan Idris Samriye, accompanied by Hussein Foulier during his stays in Canada, had the opportunity to visit the 18th first Djiboutian workers engaged by Plenel, the largest poultry manufacturer in Quebec, as a part of the labour migrations with Canada. The delegation was warmly welcomed by the leaders of the company that employed the Djiboutians, who planned a wide towers of the factory for the minister and his delegations, who were able to inquire about working conditions and the atmospheres in which evolved the Djiboutian worker in this province of Canada. The plant manager was very satisfied with the professionalism and behaviors of talents of these young workers, who quickly adapted and integrated the Quebec way of life. Moreover, the management of the company has confirmed their success in the training that these young people have followed at the plant factory. The Minister of Women and Family, Ms. Moumina Ahmed Hassan, has received in her office the Rwandan Ministers of Women, Soline Niara Bimara Manana. The Djiboutian Ministers of Women welcomed her Rwandan counterpart, who thanked her for her hospitality. The meeting focused, among other things, on strengthening existing relations between the two countries, particularly in the area of women and family. Then the two ministers went to the Women Empowerment Center Kazafa in Balbala. They visited the different rooms of this center. The director of Kazafa explained the good functions of this center, which is composed of hairdressing room, kitchens, day care, and audiovisual room. In fact, the women and family ministers of Djibouti and Rwanda have visited the national unions of Djiboutian women and were warmly welcomed by the Vice President of the UNFD and the Secretary Generals of the UNFD and the women parliamentarian. The delegation visited the various rooms of the UNFD, which are composed of serving room, listening room, and classrooms, learning room. Finally, the two ministers had a meeting with the head of the UNFD and the women's parliamentarian. They discussed the government agenda for women, and they mutually exchanged on ways and means to further strengthen the relationship. Yesterday, Saturday, was held at Ali Sabih College a meeting about the preparations for the 40th anniversaries of Ali Sabih College, chaired by the head of the establishment, Mr. Ahmed Jama Barre. Were invited to this meeting the teacher of this same establishment. The objective is to take stock of the commemorations of the 40th anniversary of the establishment, which will take place on Wednesday, next February 13, 2019. On the margins of this meeting, there were other activities. The event is important event in the life of the school, which will mark the history of the school. This is an important date that will be part of this memory. A ceremony bringing together the National Network for Social Development and the representative of the member associations of the 5 regions of interior and the capital was organized on Friday. In Dikil, the purpose of this meeting was to strengthen social cohesion and civil society engagement in the country's development through partnership and twinning of localities from south to north. On the sidelines of this ceremony, the guest spoke on the social cohesion of civil society was initiated by the officials and representatives of the associations. Also, the RTD network president handed over to the Kil Asset Association a batch of 1,500 pieces of clothing and 4 boxes of product for cattle. RNDS thanked the chairmen of the regional councils of Dikil, Mr. Abdurrahman Yunis Are, who delivered a brilliant speech on the importance of social cohesion. He also thanked the president of the Asset Associations for hosting the delegation. This civil society meeting will be held every year on the Fridays of February in the city of Unity. Under the auspices of the Secretary of State for Youth and Sport, the Egyptian Football Federation, the Obok Regional League President Hussein Ali Mohammed has launched the Seasons of a Football Championship for the season 2018-2019. This championship will regroup 10 teams and will take place in 3 months in the presence of the representative of the prefecture, the president of the regional council, Mr. Mohammed Ismail, and the deputy directors of the Secretary of State for Youth and Sport, Mr. Kamil Dini Mohammed. The launching ceremony began around by the parade of teams, referee and officials of the regional league. It is followed by the first match of the championship between the Egypt team against Andoli. Egypt teams won the match by 4-0. Everything went in an electric atmosphere. My thanks go to the State Secretary for Youth and Sports, said the Egyptian Football Federation, the prefect of the Obok region, Mr. Hassan Dabele, the president of the regional councils, Mr. Mohammed Ismail, and finally the Colonel Aden Douale, commanders of the Obok Inter-Army Regiment. For the international scene, Brexit in United Kingdom's Brexit alarms the United Kingdom's emergency zones alarmed the British bosses. Listen to Hidayah Mohammed.
Kingdom has entered the emergency zone on Brexit, said Sunday the Director General of the British Confederation of Industry, adding that the risk of an exit without agreement from the European Union has increased. While the divorce date was set for March 29, the British leader was instructed by the House of Commons to renegotiate the agreement with Brussels, but rejected by the British Parliament. It is for May to find alternative mechanism to the backstop, the safeguard clause, which must, as a last resort, guarantee that there will be no restoration of a physical border between the Republic of Ireland and the British province of Northern Ireland.
Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren formalizes on Saturday, February 9, 2018, her candidacy to wear the colors of the Democrat in the U.S. presidential elections of 2020. Listen to this report.
Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren formalized on Saturday, February 9, 2019, her candidacy to wear the colors of Democrats in the U.S. presidential election of 2020. Positioning on the left based on its humble origins, she defends minorities and denounces, namely, the strangulation of the middle class. While her party already has a dozen candidates for primary, another Senator, Amy Klobuchar, should declare Sunday. And several others determined to engage in the race have not yet officially announced their intention to embark. As former Vice President Joe Biden, the unhappy candidate of 2016 primary, Bernie Sanders, and the billionaire and former mayor of New York, Michael Bloomberg.
This is it for the news. Thanks for watching us.